Here for review number 11, I'm reviewing a game that you either heard of or you didn't. Most people aren't like, I think I've heard of it. What does it entail again? It's either, that game was great, or, huh? It's Captain Skyhawk for the NES. The premise and story are simple. You're a pilot of a futuristic F-14 attempting to stop an alien invasion. That's it. You fly through about 16 stages, half of them being overhead 2D shooters, and the other half taken on a 3D behind-the-plane view as you shoot down enemy planes, almost like Top Gun. After every 2 stages, you must dock your plane in a friendly space station, and from there, you get to upgrade your plane's weapons. And although I've mentioned a few stages resemble Top Gun, let me assure you, this game is a hell of a lot better. The first thing is the opening screen, and that might draw your attention immediately. It's not your typical plain white on black printing with the opening copyright information. Nope. It's still a black screen, but the fonts are done in multiple colors, making the opening screen pretty eye-appealing. And even before the title screen appears, the letters fall off the screen in 2 waves. When I was a kid, I always thought this was pretty cool. And on the title screen, what? Milton Bradley made this? The guys who make board games? Well, sort of. Rare helped with it. And for the record, Milton Bradley was also pretty popular for Marble Madness, although I absolutely hated that game. There's no option screen, so as soon as you press start on the title screen, you start the first mission. The good thing is that for the first 2 missions or so, the difficulty is pretty simple as you get the hang of flying your plane. In fact, in the first dogfighting stage, the enemies don't shoot at you at all, so you can get free kills in. Before I go on, let me explain the mission structure. The first stage of the mission is the main segment. You get a mission to either blow up an enemy base, drop off supplies in a desert, or save a scientist. The enemy base mission repeats on different stages 4 times, the others 2. The second stage of the mission is the dogfighting. It's in here that you obtain the most credits, as each plane destroyed nets you a credit. These credits are needed for purchasing weapons for your plane. The third section is to dock at the space station, except for the last mission, in which you go straight to the boss. Anyway, back to the first stage. You'll see a mission briefing and then you'll take off. There's nothing special you need to do to take off, as it's all done automatically. There's a few gauges, but few really mean anything. The power is your speed, and only takes effect in 2 stages. The fuel only really matters in the 2 supply drop missions, because if you keep missing the drops, you'll keep looping the stage until you either run out of fuel or you complete the drops. The altitude, however, matters in every area. If you go too low, you can easily crash into the various hills that line each area. There's always mountains on each side of you as well that count as an out-of-bounds skyline. Even at the highest altitude, if you hit these mountains, you'll lose a life. The best practice is to hold down the down button on the control pad, as it will keep you at the maximum height, ensuring that you don't hit anything you don't need to. The enemies you find, other than the planes, are just plain odd. I don't understand what the majority of them are even supposed to be. I know they're supposed to be alien life forces, but where are these little platforms with things coming out of them? They appear in every mission, and they're always stationary. They do fire diamond-like projectiles at you, but that's it. Also, many of the enemies do fire these diamonds at you. It's the only enemy attack they have, and it's always fired straight ahead. It's never at a diagonal. So if you want to make the game way too easy, just fly over the extreme edge of the map to avoid all enemies and you'll never get hit by anything. But of course, that's boring, so you shouldn't anyway. This game can still be challenging on later stages though. Enemies don't necessarily get harder, but it's more about the final mission. You face these little mine things. If they explode near you, you might die. If you manage to hit one of the shrapnel pieces, you might die. I'm saying this with uncertainty because it seems random. Sometimes you can get right up close to a mine, it'll blow up, and you don't lose the plane. Other times, you can be farther away from it and hit one of its small, tiny little fragments, and you still die. My question is this. If the mines are on the ground and they explode, why does it still take you down at max altitude? I would have thought you'd be flying more than high enough to avoid any ground blasts. Stupid alien weapons. The other thing about the main mission levels is the actual look of the levels. They're typical bright and colorful, and have the same grid look that Marble Madness had. I'm not sure about the whole point to this, but it doesn't take away from the experience. The biggest problem is that once you start memorizing the stages, you'll have no problems finishing the game. The reason for this is that many of the stages repeat in one way or another. You'll have the same patterns in each stage. It's going to feel like some pretty major deja vu. That's the biggest problem with the game. Once you've played one level, you've pretty much played them all. However, don't let this discourage you from playing this game, because although it's predictable, there's other things that really help. As I said, there are 4 stages where you have to take out an enemy base. These are essentially bosses, and are featured at the ends of stages 1, 3, 5, and 7. It's a shame because they're all identical. You have your center orb, then 4 spheres guarding it in each direction. The goal is to destroy the 4 outer ones, then to take on the center. I don't know why, but even when you destroy the orb directly in front of the center, you still need to take out the one behind it, even though your shots clearly go through the center of it. The best way to take these on is to destroy the bottom one first, then just weave from side to side spamming cannon shots. This will make sure you don't get hit, because if you do manage to die here, you have to start the boss battle over. After you do manage to destroy it, you get taken to the status screen, where you're awarded bonus points for every enemy you've destroyed. If you've managed to take out 64 aliens, you get an extra life. You then start the second part, which is dogfighting. You're forced to take on 32 enemy planes. Most won't shoot at you in earlier missions, but later on every wave of 2 has one of them firing a rocket at you. Just like everything else in the game, one hit is death. Although the graphics don't really improve anything over Top Gun, at least the planes look better. There's also a ton of clouds and a bit of texture in the ground. Also, the stage corresponds a bit with the first part of the mission. For example, in Mission 3, when you fight over what I would assume to be a snowy tundra, the dogfighting is taking place over ice. It's these little things that at least make the dogfighting a bit more interesting, because otherwise it'd be boring. Although I would love to know if this is supposed to signify a night mission, or if you're just flying over tar. Flying into the space station can be really tricky if you don't know how to do it. If you're watching my review for advice, and you only listen to one thing in its entire video, it should be this: do not move left or right. If you do so, it makes it incredibly difficult to get back in the correct position. Instead, just nudge yourself up or down. The reason why you want to avoid moving horizontally is because the space flying controls are just way too awkward. They're practically over-responsive. So just take my advice: don't move horizontally. Once you enter the space station, you're treated to the weapon upgrade screen. In addition to your regular cannon, you get 3 optional secondary weapons. The Phoenix missiles are used in the air-to-air missions, and you get 4 of them. To use them, you press B to lock on, and B again to fire. Unlike Top Gun, this game doesn't give you a huge window to use them, so you still need to target the enemy in the normal targeting window to lock on. The Maverick missiles are used in the primary stages, and will attack many of the creatures on the screen in one shot. The Hawk bombs take out a wider array of enemies in front of you. To be perfectly honest, I don't find the secondary weapons to be all too useful. The Mavericks usually won't take out what's in front of you. By the time you fire the Hawk bombs, you'll usually be past the target. So although you can use the credits to purchase these, I wouldn't go nuts using them. However, you want to upgrade your cannon as soon as possible. You started at level 1, and it fires very slowly. With each upgrade, it increases the firing rate. At later levels, you can just hold down the A button to fire, and you won't need to worry about missing anything that's ahead of you. After you complete rearming your plane, you start the next mission. Mission 2 and 6 involve dropping supplies in the crosses. These are the only 2 stages that don't include bosses at the end. Instead, you need to time airdrops into small holes that are easily marked for you. If you miss the drop, you loop around the stage and try again. These are the only stages where fuel takes any sort of importance. 2 main passes and you'll run out of fuel, losing a life. Once you get the timing down, it's very easy to complete. If you're daring, you can purposely make a few passes to rack up enough kills for an extra life. The problem with this is that the B button is the airdrop control, which is the same as the secondary weapons. Normally, tapping B fires the Maverick missiles, while holding then releasing B fires the Hawk bombs. In here, the Hawk bombs are swapped for the airdrops, so I'm hoping you didn't plan on using those bombs at all. Once you fight the enemy jets, dock, and then resupply, you're on the 3rd mission, which is similar as 7. There's another boss at the end, and this stage is identical in layout to the 1st and 5th. But there's a slight catch. It's hyperspeed time. At first you go about 10 times as fast as you normally do. You can adjust this by pressing either up or down and select. But come on, who doesn't enjoy speed? This is fun! Well, until you start crashing into the mountainsides. Each death you get slows down the plane automatically for a bit, but you can readjust it to your liking. You can also use this to slow down for more kills. At the same time though, an enemy jet will be chasing you, trying to blast you down, but you can keep destroying them for good points. Stage 7 is the same, but instead it's the same layout as Stage 5. Here's my question though. Where are you that the ground is red? The sun? But what about these objects? They're the same thing as the 3rd level. Did the ice caps fry or something? Stages 4 and 8 are both fought over the sea, and these are the best levels aesthetically. The grid layout isn't nearly as noticeable, and you get to fight ships instead of other odd objects. Again, in Stage 8 you need to worry about those damn mines, but other than that, it's a cakewalk. The boss of these 2 stages are some sort of force field that's keeping the scientists captive. These 2 scientists are the ones that are building the secret weapon, so it's a necessity to save them, I guess. At the end of Mission 4 you dock again, but after fighting the jets in the 8th mission, you go right to the enemy space shuttle. It's similar to the one you dock at, but it's made of a bunch of eyes. Now, that's creepy. Just like every other boss in the game, you need to destroy the outlining pods before the central eye opens up. Here's where the game's controls take a major dive. Space flying sucks. Up and down are fine, but again, left and right are way too responsive, and even just tapping either direction will careen your plane off course. You just need to awkwardly fly in random locations and hope you don't get hit. The central eye fires what looks to be rocks at you, but if you can manage to center your plane directly over the eye, the projectiles will be useless and you'll be free to blast it down quickly. Once you kill it, that's it. There's no ending. Talk about major ripoff. After killing it, you do get sent to the status screen where you get an extra life. But what's the point? The game's over. You're not doing any more levels, so what's the purpose of having an extra life? You won't need to use it. You then get sent to the high score screen if applicable. It's kind of odd. There's your standard input, and then 2 bouncing rings that show you where you are in the alphabet. It's almost like they had space to kill and they just wanted to fill it up when they made this game. One other thing that I should mention is that there's hardly any music, which is pretty disappointing. The opening title screen is pretty cool sounding, as is the boss and status screen music, but that's pretty much all you get in terms of background sounds. Overall though, Captain Skyhawk is an amazing game. It's not flawless because of its repeated layouts and bosses, and even a lack of music, but otherwise it's a solid 2D flying game that's pretty much allows you to feel like you're actually flying a craft. Well, as much as the NES would allow anyway. Even with these defects, it's still a fun game that I enjoy even to this day, and I still play it every once in a while. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging? Oh, and by the way, watch out. Hey, look at this. This is Reaper, and we got an epilogue here. After I got done doing a review, I decided that I needed to create a few more videos for it, so I went into Captain Skyhawk. Somehow, I glitched the game. I was trying to do this last crash animation I threw in there. The game decided that it didn't want me to die, so I was able to crash that game out and I won, get hit by anything, and I didn't die. So after just screwing around for a little bit, I kind of flew over mountains. I have no idea how I did this, so if anybody can let me know, I'd appreciate it. So other than that, just enjoy my little escapades, well, glitched, I guess.